Hello all and welcome to the Nalcon webinar session. My name is Harshit and I'm a part of Nalcon team and I will be the host for the day. Nalcon is an annual conference which is organized in Goa every year. We provide a unique platform for security companies and evangelists to showcase their research and technology. Today we have with us Rohit Salecha and he's going to present his talk on secrets management using HashiCorp Vault. I welcome him to this webinar session. Rohit Salecha is a security consultant at Not So Secure. He is a regular trainer at international conferences like Nalcon and Black Hat, and also delivers training on web application security and DevSecOps. So our today's webinar session will be for 30 minutes, and after that we will have a question and answer session. So you all can ask your questions using chat option after the talk, and also request you to keep your mic on mute. So Rohit, I welcome you again and stage is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Harshit. I hope I'm audible to everyone, and I hope everybody can see my screen as well. Okay, thank you,
Yes.
Harshit. Thank you, Nalcon, for providing me this opportunity to speak online and about a very interesting topic that is secrets management using HashiCorp Vault. So, a bit about myself. Harshit has already given fair enough introduction, so I won't waste time in that, and we'll just go ahead. So what are we gathered here today for? So we want to basically understand what's the whole idea about secrets management, why we require secrets management, right? Today we have a lot of applications that access databases, and a good majority of times I'm pretty sure even as pen testers and even as internal audit teams, you must have observed that credentials are kept in clear text and text files and in your environment variables, right? So secrets management is that entire philosophy beyond which basically deals around tokenization of those credentials. So rather than storing your credentials in clear text, what we are going to learn today is how we can tokenize that entire how we can tokenize those credentials, and instead of storing your actual credentials in clear text, how can we use tokens? Now, to help us manage that entire process, we make use of a tool called as HashiCorp Vault, which is one of the most popular tools around for secrets management. So we look at how we can set up Vault installation and configuration. We'll look at how we can add and read credentials. Then we look at the one of the most important part of using HashiCorp Vault, and that is creating policies, right? And finally, we look at how we can rotate those credentials, how we can reuse those credentials, or reuse those tokens. And finally, we'll end with a very 30,000 feet conceptual architecture of how you should be implementing this vault, right? So I'm pretty sure everybody, most of you all will have some questions, and I would prefer to have an interactive session. But owing to time limitations, what I would really request everyone to please note down your questions, and after my presentation, we'll have 15-20 minutes to take the questions and answers. Okay. Yeah. So what is secrets management? So DevOps and the allied technologies, the automation, right? All of them, they require storage of credentials, passwords, SSH keys, authentication tokens, certificates, etc. Right? Because in DevOps, so in traditional approach, I'm not sure how many of you have seen that, but in traditional approach, whenever there is a deployment happening into production, people wait for the administrator to SSH into the machine or RDP into the machine, and then insert the credentials in the configuration file, right? And only the administrator or only the operations team have access to that particular production server, right? So this was the approach for the traditional IT team to to protect the credentials, right? But with advent of DevOps, this is no longer possible, right? DevOps requires end-to-end automation. So the moment a developer checks in the code or commits the code, the expectation is within 15 minutes or 20 minutes, that code, if everything goes fine, that code should go and get deployed into the production, right? So that is the requirement of DevOps. That is the one of the major reasons why people are moving towards DevOps, because you're having a shorter build cycles and faster deployments, etc. Right now, DevOps requires you to store the credentials somewhere, because your automation scripts, your programs will fetch those credentials from somewhere, from environment variables, from your Docker engines, whatever. I mean, there are various ways from where your scripts can basically fetch those credentials, and all these credentials are checked in with the code, right? So if you're having the db.properties file, that db.properties file will be checked into your source code management, your SCM repository, which will be then basically available for everyone to see, right? So even if you have a private internal repository, so whoever have access to that repository do have access to the production credentials. So now, from the traditional IT approach, as we saw, that only the administrator knew the credentials, in DevOps world, it's not just the administrator, but also your developers who have access to that repo will be able to view those credentials in clear text, right? Which is a big concern, right? So this is a big concern, and that is why the entire process of secrets management is basically what we need to now understand. To help us with this, today we'll learn about a tool called as HashiCorp Vault. It's an open source tool which is meant for managing your secrets and applying access control rules on those secrets. So Vault is not just a machine where you dump your credentials. It gives you a token and then you start sharing your token to everyone, right? But you can also apply access control over those tokens, and that is what we'll look in a short while, right? So finally, you basically check in those tokens into the repository and not your credentials, right? So your tokens will be visible to everyone and not your credentials. I know some people will have questions around this, and please hold on to that question. We'll discuss that towards the end. Okay, right? And HashiCorp Vault also has dynamic secrets generation. So there are a lot of different kinds of secret engines. We'll be learning only the key value pair, but there are multiple different kinds of secret engines that can be used as well. Right now, setting up the HashiCorp Vault, what I have done is basically created a very simple Vagrant file. So yeah, so I'll share this link with everyone on the chat. So in this link, you will find all the material about my talk, the Vagrant file, the Vagrant file, the slides that I'm running through. Can't see the chat window. Yeah, yes. So here you can see I have shared the all the contents. Harshit sir, I'm getting this add people notification. So is it possible to remove that any chance? Okay. Yeah. So yes. So here, if you just clone this particular repo, you'll need to download Vagrant 2.2.6, VirtualBox 6.0, irrespective of what machine you're running on. It doesn't matter, right? Just clone this repo and go into the directory and just do Vagrant up, right? So the moment you do Vagrant up, right, you will be having your machine with the Vault server installed, right? So if I can just show you guys the Vagrant file, this is the Vagrant file. right? So this is the Vagrant file, and as you can see over here, I have installed the latest version of the Vault server for everybody to use. So the moment you do Vagrant up, within 10 minutes or 15 minutes, you'll have your machine up and running. And then to access your machine, you just have to do Vagrant SSH. Right? And we have our Vault up and running. Right? So this is the Vault server that is currently running in our quickly created machine. And there are a few things that I want to show over here. So first is initialization status. So currently our Vault server is not yet initialized, right? So we still have to initialize it, right? So let's first go ahead and initialize our Vault, right? So once we have completed the installation, that the Vagrant, the next thing that we want to do is configure our Vault. So we'll initialize the Vault, we'll configure our Vault, right? So the first command that we'll fire is Vault operator init. So this will initialize our Vault machine. And as part of the initialization, what Vault is giving us is a set of 5 keys, right? A set of 5 keys and one initial root token. Okay, I'll just discuss what these are in a while. In the meanwhile, just ensure that you store these 5 keys somewhere, right? Now let's look at the Vault status again. Now, as you can see, the initialized flag has turned true. So our Vault has now been initialized, but it is currently in a sealed state. So if I try to perform any action on Vault, right? So let me try to add these credentials, right? So it's giving an error. It's saying that the Vault is sealed. So it will not allow me to add, or it will not. It will also not allow me to read any credentials, right? Because it is saying Vault is sealed. Now, what does it mean by saying Vault is sealed? Vault. So basically, this program, it's a self-encrypting program, right? So all the data that is there inside that particular file where we have stored all the credentials, that is now completely in a sealed state. So nobody can access that. In order to access that, you need to supply 3 out of 5 of these keys, right? Imagine this is some kind of your nuclear codes kind of a scenario, right? So the nuclear launch codes are not with a single person, right? They are with 3 or 4 different people, right? And all those 3 or 4 different people need to enter those nuclear launch codes, give their authentication, and only then, I hope not, it never happens, but that's when it really goes off, right? So now if I do Vault status again, you'll see that the total keys that have been generated is 5 and the threshold is 3, right? So out of 5 keys that have been generated, we need to enter at least 3 keys, right? So how do you go about unsealing the Vault? So the command to unseal the Vault is Vault operator unseal, right? And let's give us the first key. Right? So here you can see our unseal progress. Earlier it was 0/3, now it is 1/3. So our Vault is still in a sealed state because we've not yet supplied all the keys. So let's supply any of these 3 keys. Of course, you cannot repeat a key, right? And I'll take the 5th key again. Fine. Okay, sorry. Right? So now, as you can see, my Vault is now unsealed. So the sealed status is false. My Vault is unsealed, right? And now it is ready for us to put basically operate. So I can now add credentials, I can remove credentials, I can create different kinds of SSH keys, etc. Right? but we still need some kind of an authentication. So if I try to add this credential now, right, it is saying it's giving a 403 error, which basically means is that I still have not provided a particular authentication token, right? Before supplying that, let me also show you that Vault can be accessed from CLI as well as from our browser. So it runs on the port 8200 by default, and it has various different kinds of authentication mechanisms that you can inbuild. You can basically configure. But currently, I'm doing this entire course on the CLI. I'm doing this entire talk on the CLI. This is just for your information if you guys are interested in doing it through GUI. So it also has a good GUI interface as well. Now, in order to operate the Vault, either through the GUI or through the CLI, I need to log into the Vault. And in order to log in, I need to make use of this root token, right? So this root token is like your root password, or basically the final thing, the ultimate thing in your Vault. So all the operations can happen only and only through this root token. So I can do Vault login, supply my token, and now I am authenticated. Similarly, if I log in over here, supply my token, and I am authenticated into my Vault GUI, right? And you can see over here the warning: you have logged in with a root token. As a security precaution, it is not recommended to use the root token for login. So root token is generally meant to first log into the Vault, create certain policies, and then make use of the other tokens. Now, why we need to do that, I'll just explain in a while. Before that, let's just go ahead and enable the KV secrets engine. So KV secrets engine is basically your key values pair. So what I'm telling Vault is that I want to store my credentials in a key value format. So key value format is basically username is equals to root, password is equals to 2, right? So this is the key and value. So I want to basically store my credentials in a key value format. There are various different secret engines available in Vault. So as you can see, so the Vault documentation has various different kinds of secret engines that you can initialize. There are database specific engines. So if you are using MySQL or any of these databases, you can actually initialize your entire MySQL database through Vault, right? For now, we are using the simple, that is the key value pair, right? So let us first go ahead and enable this, right? So our key value secrets engine has now been enabled. Now let's go ahead and enter our first credentials, right? So now the important part about this command is this path, right? So this path is user configurable. So basically at this particular location, I have stored this data, right? If you would like to see it in the GUI as well. So if I just refresh and enter my credential again, right? So you can see a new path has been created over here, and here are my credentials, right? So this is very important. It is very important to create this particular path, right? So you need to be very well organized whenever you're creating credentials. You need to have a proper nomenclature around these paths, right? And if I want to read my credentials, again, just Vault KV get, and I can read my credentials. But what if I want to read my credentials not from within the machine. Now here I'm within the machine, right? But not from within the machine. I want to read it from outside my machine, right? So in that case, you need to make use of, you can basically use this Vault API. So Vault has its own set of APIs, right? But we need to supply the Vault token. So let's first supply. So right now we'll supply the root token over here. Right, and I'll fire the command again. And here you can see now I have basically accessed my credentials from outside the my machine. So using the curl API, using the API endpoint, I can now access my credentials if I have the token. Now, as I said earlier, and even we saw the warning that it is not recommended to use the root token. Why is it that way? Because if you're supplying this root token, then anybody can access any of your credentials within Vault, right? You might have a database credential, you might have an Active Directory credentials, etc., etc. Right? So everybody will be able to view all your credentials, and that is something we do not want, right? So what can we do in that scenario? So in that scenario, Vault allows us to create what we call as policies, right? So here, this is my policy. So path, KV database, MySQL, capabilities, read and list, right? So what I'm doing is I'm creating a policy where for this particular path, I'm giving only read and list privileges, right? So let us create this policy. So all the commands that I'm firing is also present in the commands.txt file, right? So I've created this policy. So Vault policy list, you can see our policy has now been created. Now, how can I use this policy, right? So what I can now do is basically create a token for this particular specific policy, right? So this is my token that has been created. Now what I'll do is I'll take this token and I'll replace my root token. And now if I fire, you can see I can access my credentials, right? So now I can very safely provide this particular credit token to anyone and everyone in the organization, or basically the developers in the organization, and that developer will be able to access only and only the credentials stored at this particular path, right? And nothing other than that, right? Now, the another thing about these policies is that they are time limited. Another thing about these tokens is that they are time limited. So currently, this is the default duration, that is around 32 days for this token to be valid. This token after 32 days will expire automatically. So we need to have in place a renewal process, right? So we need to have some kind of an automation around that as well to renew our tokens regularly. So how do we renew our token? We can renew our token by supplying this token itself. So we can do Vault token we can do Vault token renew, and we can give this token itself, right? It will generate a new token, or I can also give this accessor token, right? So hyphen accessor, and if I supply this, right? So if I think the command is a little different. Token renew hyphen accessors. So now my existing token, that is the token that was generated earlier, that is this one, is now renewed. So what we can do is basically use this access a token to continuously continuously renew our token, right? Now, why do we need, yeah, okay. So we can basically use this renew token to basically continuously renew our tokens. Now, another, now the primary question that everybody would be having is that if somebody has access to my token, then anybody can easily gain access to my credentials, right? So this is one very very simple question that everybody would be having in their mind. Now here basically we need to design an architecture in such a way that the vault server should not be accessible to your developers, right? So as you can see over here, we are having an administrator who is responsible to create these tokens, to enter the credentials into the vault server, to create to create this token, pass the token to the developer. The developer will insert the token in the environment variable or in the txt in the txt file or whatever file config file is present, right? And the program on the fly. So for example, here I have a simple Java application, and here you can see what I'm doing is I'm basically taking the token for my for the vault database, the path on which my on which my token is being created, and the address of the vault server, right? The address of the vault server. Everything I'm basically taking in from the everything is basically being taken from the environment variables, right? So the vault address, the database name, the JDBC URL, right? Your vault token, your path, everything is being fetched from the environment variable. So when my application is deployed into production at runtime, the application will basically make use of that token and fetch it from the vault server and access our database, right? So in this entire scenario, as long as the developer is not having access to your vault server, your credentials cannot be leaked, right? So having this kind of an architecture is very important, especially when you are using a secrets management solution. So just like HashiCorp Vault, all the other secrets management solution, that is AWS Secrets Manager or Google's own Secrets Manager, right? All of them, they work on very similar concepts. So there will be a token based scenario, so where you can generate a token, and secondly there will be an access control that you need to configure on those particular tokens, right? So so that is all from my side. I guess we've finished on time. So anybody has any questions, I am happy to answer them.
Hello, you can ask your question using chat option.
Yeah, so Navneet has asked a question. How do we address the bootstrap problem? The first CRED is always difficult to manage. How does HashiCorp manage this issue? So yes, so again, Navneet, the administrator, so there will be an administrator who will have access to these keys and this particular root token, right? And basically he will basically be the vault manager, and he will have access to all the credentials, right? So again, I mean, there is no end to that. So it's the question then basically boils down to is who will manage the administrator, or who will administer the administrator, right? So of course vault is allowing us to to segregate the responsibilities in a stricter manner. So second question is credential storage with vault infrastructure. What protection does this secret get while in the vault? So once the secret is inside the vault, you will need a token, right? If you do not have the token, you will not be able to access those credentials, right? Third question is, since a vault be always unsealed when actions such as CI/CD pipelines are running, how are these orchestrated while maintaining vault security? So again, the third question, the answer to the third question is via tokens. So you need to create these tokens and you need to apply proper access controls on those tokens. And as you can see, so if you, as you can see, I have in fact created an entire CI/CD kind of a scenario in my project. So I've created a DevOps lab, and in that DevOps lab, I have basically implemented the entire secrets management process within it, right? So Jenkins basically pulls the credentials from Vault and then pushes the creates the Docker image and then pushes the Docker images. Right. Going to fourth question. Are the APIs not TLS by default? Of course, you can configure. So if you can look at the config.json that I've supplied in my repository. So here I have purposely disabled TLS, but you can of course enable TLS and provide the certificates. Since this was a demo scenario, I did not generate the certificates. So Kaushal has certain questions. Do we need to unlock Vault for accessing API? Yes, the Vault needs to be unlocked, and in order to, so unlock means unseal. Yes, you need to unseal the Vault in order to access the API or to access Vault in any format, through API, through CLI, through any format. Second question for Kaushal is, what's the best practice around creating policies? It is different for different services, and what's the best practice around renewing tokens? So yes, so Kaushal, the best practice around creating policies is that you should be very well organized in terms of your paths that you're creating, right? So do not try to create all credentials in the same path. If you do that, you are basically putting, you are hammering yourself. I mean, it defeats the purpose. So let's say every server, every Docker instance that you are having, just create a separate path for that particular application, right? And then apply access control policies. There is no limit on which on the number of policies that you can create, right? So you can basically create those policies. And as I said, the best practice around renewing these tokens is through accessor tokens, right? Because your tokens may not be available to everyone, but your accessor tokens can easily be available to everyone, because through your accessor tokens, you cannot get back the real token, but you can always renew your token, right? So as I showed earlier as well over here, we can basically renew the token. Spelling mistake, yeah. So you can always renew the token. So whatever token that has been created, you can always renew. We can also not just renew, but we can also revoke these tokens. So a particular token and all of its children tokens can be revoked, right? So yes, so a token can have child tokens as well. Okay, next. Yeah, Pavan is asking, if the application is compromised with remote code execution, the vault doesn't prevent the attackers accessing the secrets, isn't it? Yes, Pavan, so that's very correct. If you have an RCE, then the attacker will first need to fetch your tokens from your application, from runtime, from your running application, and then get hold of your credentials. So definitely there again we have some level of protection, because again the attacker will need access to the token, so he needs to somehow dive into the code, get the token, and then call the call the Vault API and then get hold of the credentials, right? So there is still some level of effort that will be required from an attacker's perspective. But yes, that doesn't mean that you should not be using Vault, right? Because if you have a remote code execution in your application, right, there are bigger things that you need to address rather than thinking about whether to use Vault or not. So Kaushal has asked another question. What's the best practice around on-premise deployments? Again, Kaushal, the Vault has a high availability mode which you can enable, and basically it kinds of load balances itself, right? So for an on-premise deployment or for any kind of an environment, the best practice I would say is have a separate instance of Vault server for every environment. So if you have a staging environment, you create a separate instance of Vault for only for staging. If you have a QA environment, you create a separate instance only for QA, right? So the developers, so you'll only need to basically keep toggling around with those different tokens, right? So in DevOps, it is very important to use infrastructure as code, right? So the only thing that will differentiate your staging environment, your production environment, and your QA environment is your tokens, your Vault tokens. That's like the ideal, not an ideal, but a practical approach towards deployments, right? Can you share the link to the lab too, please? Okay, I'll share the link. So this is my DevOps project that I've created. You guys can definitely access that as well. Okay. Oh my God, there are too many questions. Never mind. Let me just make it full screen. Yeah, that's better. Okay, so Rashid is asking a question. How would you evaluate AWS Secrets Manager versus HashiCorp Vault? We are on AWS and we need a solution to 100% of RDS credentials with least moving parts and friction. This should only be visible to DBA teams. So of course, Rashid, if you're on AWS, it is very much recommended that you use AWS Secrets Manager and not go into creating a separate HashiCorp Vault unless you have budget constraints, right? Because using AWS Secrets Manager will have your will have a cost associated to that as well.
Sorry to interrupt you. We are
Yeah,
about to run the time. So just take 2 or 3 more questions. We need to follow the time guidance.
Okay, sure. Fine. So Khamruddin is asking, where does console come into picture? So yeah, so Khamruddin, very interesting question. So if you look at their configuration file over here, so here we are storing all the credentials and everything in a single file over here, right? So so there is a particular file called as Vault data, and all the credentials is basically stored inside this particular file in an encrypted format, right? So instead of using a file-based approach, you can either use Consul or you can use MySQL database to basically store your credentials. Which method is best to deploy Vault, a container-based or a non-container-based? That actually depends on how your organization is running. So if you are a container fan, you have a container, you can basically use a container-based as well if you wish to. There is no ifs or buts around that, right? Ankit is asking a question. Do we need to unseal Vault every time? No, Ankit. So Vault needs to be unsealed only once, and in case if your server shuts down, right, or your server is restarted, then in that scenario your Vault will be sealed, right, automatically. So again, you need to unseal your Vault upon a restart or a reboot, right? Khamruddin is asking, how do we integrate Vault with SSH and also to auto-rotate SSH credentials? So you need to enable the Vault SSH engine, right? So there's an entire documentation around that. Okay, you can just search on Vault SSH engine and you'll be able to find the entire documentation around how to manage SSH keys.
Okay, Rohit, sorry to interrupt you again. So we are about to run the time. So you can take one more question, whichever you like, and then we'll proceed for the closing.
Okay. Okay. So I'll take Dipin's questions. What is the best method to inject secret into an application running on Kubernetes? So Kubernetes, so Vault has plugins for Kubernetes, so it deploys on Kubernetes very easily. There is Vault. The folks at Vault have already given a good architecture around that. So Dipin, I'd highly recommend to go ahead and read that. Okay. Okay, I'm exhausted, guys.
Okay. Thank you, Rohit, for this amazing informative session, and thank you all for your participation.
Yeah, I'll just share my link again with everyone on the chat. The link to the GitHub repository. Yeah. Okay, thank you, guys.
Thank you all for your participation. We will have our next webinar session on securing microservices at API Gateway using cloud and native solution by Abhishek Datta on 6th of June. And we will also have our resume clinic next session on 12th of June. So I hope to see you all there. In chat, I'm putting a link of our next webinar. So if you wish, you can join it from there. And thank you all for your participation.